Here's an interesting story. I'm curious what you think about this. You know how when you pay a speeding ticket, rather when you get a speeding ticket, you don't want to pay it and you file an appeal. If the police officer doesn't show up, you typically don't have to pay. Now, this depends on whether it's a state where state police sends a representative to handle all of that day's cases or whatever. There's different mitigating factors that may change that. But more or less, if the case against you, if the paperwork is misplaced or the officer isn't there, the representative isn't there, you essentially don't have to pay. Well, there's an incident that took place where an on-duty Florida Highway Patrol officer killed a grandmother in a 90-mile-an-hour collision. And he now had his case dismissed after the officer who gave him the citation missed the trial. So what does that mean? What exactly happened here? We have video of this. What happened was that a few months ago, about a year ago actually, we had Trooper McClellan, 34 years old, responding to a call about someone throwing rocks from an overpass, okay? So he drove to the scene with his emergency lights on. He reached speeds of more than 100 miles per hour, and he lost control of his police vehicle as he turned a corner. And the recommended speed there, the speed limit was 35 miles per hour. He was reportedly going over 100 miles per hour. He smashed into Michelle Campbell's vehicle, throwing her 12-year-old daughter through the windshield and injuring her niece. Now, Miss Campbell, 51 years old, died hours later. So then who shows up? Brooks Yarborough investigates the crash, another Florida Highway Patrol officer, and finds that the officer, McClellan, is actually at fault. He was fired, and he was cited with 3 traffic violations, including careless driving, speeding, and failure to use emergency lights. Okay. So now that's an interesting thing. Failure to use emergency lights.
He drove to the scene without his emergency lights.
He drove without the emergency lights, correct.
Yeah.
If I misspoke on that, I stand corrected. So prosecutors didn't file criminal charges. Many argue, many legal experts have written saying criminal charges really should have been filed here. But it wasn't vehicular homicide, according to prosecutors, so this was going to be handled in traffic court. So what happens? They show up at traffic court. Trooper McClellan, former Trooper McClellan, shows up with his attorney, and basically there's just a lot of laughing, and the judge seems completely nonplussed by the thing and says, "Oh, dismissal? Oh, what? Dismissed? Yeah, haha." Everybody laughs. It's dismissed. The guy walks out of there shaking hands with his former co-workers, and that's that. We actually have video from the court. Let's take a look at the audio and video here, Lewis.
You agree with dismissal?
Well, what's the
Why not? I'm easy to please.
Okay, so that is the defense attorney for the officer asking the representative there whether he agrees with the dismissal, and then the answer is, "Why not? I'm easy to please." Everybody's laughing about this. Okay, let's continue.
You all want it dismissed? Oh, I thought I heard y'all say dismissal.
I asked if he would agree
I was
with
writing and I heard dismissal.
I asked if he would agree to a dismissal.
That's what y'all said?
Nobody here objects, Judge. Hearing no objection.
There's no objection? Come on, you. Y'all can the camera and me.
Just say, I was not at the scene. I cannot represent the corporal that was there. And do as you wish, Your Honor.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm going to move for dismissal, Judge. We're here. I mean, my understanding was we were going to be here. I didn't receive any notice from anybody as to, this being continued or. My loyalties lie over here. You understand? So
Okay.
that's where I am.
Okay. And you're unable to.
I have no authority to represent the corporal that issued the citation.
Right.
Make a request?
Move to dismiss the citations, Your Honor. We're here. It's a scheduled court date, and nobody here on behalf of the agency is here to represent the agency with respect to the citations. I mean, my position is if the agency...
And we know where this goes. It just ends up getting dismissed. What do you think about this, Lewis? Is this one of those things where, because this is a former officer, no criminal charges, and even these relatively minor civil things, these get brushed off too, and everybody pat each other on the back? Now, some would say, well, he did get fired, but absolutely no penalties of any kind.
It's absurd how reckless he was. Clearly, how reckless he was. Did the 12-year-old live that got thrown through the windshield?
As far as I know, yes.
Wow. All right. Well, he killed someone and easily could have killed multiple people.
His driving was responsible for the death of a woman, and there were no consequences. He walks out shaking hands with fellow troopers, and the victim's family understandably is shocked by the outcome of this. Is anything that happens while officers are in pursuit immune from prosecution, right? Because this is completely reckless behavior. 100 miles an hour in a 35 for someone throwing rocks. The argument was, well, throwing rocks is really an emergency. It's a very big deal.
Why didn't the officer have his lights on then?
If someone from an overpass is throwing rocks, that is a good question. Why didn't he have the lights on? I'm not sure.
Probably because he's completely incompetent.
So the firing, you believe, at least, is some kind of justice? I don't know.
He needs to be... No, not good enough. Not good enough.
All right, you've heard it from Lewis.